The sky above Virex 7 was filled with fire and smoke. Pieces of metal and sparks floated like dying stars. The battle had ended, but the war was not over yet. The Vral's Wrath, a great ship of the Galactic Dominion, was badly damaged. It crashed on the rocky surface of the scorched moon. Inside the wreck, Commander Kale Rath lay unconscious. His breathing was weak, and his body was covered in deep cuts and burns. The proud Rillian warrior had fought bravely, but now he was broken and alone. Around him, the other Rillian soldiers had gathered. They looked at Kale Rath with cold eyes. "He is too badly hurt," one said. "The honor code says we cannot let him suffer. He would want us to leave him." "No one will survive here," another added. "We must return to the fleet." Kale Rath's second-in-command, Lieutenant Zorlek, nodded and ordered the soldiers to leave him behind. They packed their gear and boarded the escape pods. The cold wind howled across the barren land as the Rillians flew away, leaving their commander to die. But Kale Rath was not yet ready to die. A few hours later, Earth forces arrived to clear the battlefield. Among them was Lieutenant Ava Corwin, a skilled medic. She had seen many horrors during the war, but this mission was different. Her team was told to identify survivors and assist the wounded, but only humans. The Rillians were the enemy. As Ava moved through the rubble, her heart beat faster. She could hear faint breathing beneath a broken piece of metal. Carefully, she lifted it and saw Kale Rath's face, pale and bruised, eyes closed but flickering with life. Without thinking, Ava lifted the alien onto her stretcher. She knew hiding him was dangerous. If the humans found an enemy alive, they would kill him on the spot or take him prisoner. Ava would lose everything, her job, her rank, even her freedom. But she could not leave him to die. Back at the medical station, Ava worked all night to save Kale Rath. She used everything she knew, human medicine and some experimental alien technology captured during the war. The machines beeped and lights flashed. Kyle Rath's body slowly stopped shaking and his breathing grew stronger. When he finally opened his eyes, the room was bright and cold. He looked around, confused and angry. The sharp ridges of his alien face tightened in pain and distrust. He saw Ava and hissed softly, a warning. "Easy," Ava said gently. "I'm not here to hurt you." Kale Rath's mind raced. An enemy human had saved him? The Rillian code taught him to hate humans, to see them as weak and cruel. But here, in this small room far from the battlefield, was proof otherwise. Days passed as Ava cared for him. Kale Rath's wounds healed slowly, but his spirit was harder to fix. He could not forget the shame of being abandoned. His people had left him to die, and his pride burned with that betrayal. Ava visited him often, bringing food and water. She spoke softly, telling him about Earth, its blue skies, green forests, and endless oceans. Kale Rath listened, fascinated and skeptical. "Why do you help me?" he asked one day, his voice rough. "Because no one deserves to die alone," Ava answered simply. "And because I believe there is more to us than war." Their conversations were awkward at first, full of questions and misunderstandings, but, slowly, a fragile trust grew between the human and the alien. Ava saw that beneath the warrior's fierce exterior was a being capable of kindness and pain. Kale Rath realized that humans were not just enemies. They were complex. Just like him outside, the war still raged. Scouts from both sides searched the area. Ava had to keep Kale Rath hidden, moving him from place to place within the base. Every day was a risk. One evening, a siren blared. The base was under attack. Ava grabbed Kale Rath's arm. "We have to move, now." They ran through dark corridors and broken halls. Explosions shook the ground. Kyle Rath's strength had returned, and he fought beside Ava, protecting her with speed and skill. They reached a hidden exit just as enemy soldiers stormed inside. Ava helped Kale Rath out into the cold night air. The stars above looked peaceful, but the danger was very real. As they fled into the darkness, Ava realized that saving Kale Rath was no longer just about mercy or duty. It was about hope. Hope that enemies could become friends and, maybe, even more. Kale Rath looked at Ava, the human who had saved him. In her eyes he saw something he never expected. The beginning of a new path. One where he might find forgiveness, courage, and even love. But the war was not over, and their secret could cost them everything. The secret bunker was cold and dark. Outside, the winds of Virex 7 blew dust and ash across the broken moon's surface. Inside, Lieutenant Ava Corwin worked quietly, doing everything she could to keep Commander Kale Rath alive. Kale was still, weak. His breathing was uneven and his wounds ached with pain. His alien body was strange to Ava's medical instruments, and she worried if her treatments were enough. She checked the monitors again, then gently touched his forehead. His skin was warm but barely. He stirred and opened his eyes slowly. For a moment they locked with Ava's. She saw confusion, pain, and something deeper, anger. "Where am I?" Kale asked in a low voice, his alien accent rough but clear. "You're safe," Ava said softly. "I brought you here. I'm a medic." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "You, human. Why save me?" Ava paused. It was a question she had not fully answered in her own mind. Why did she risk so much for an enemy commander? "Because no one deserves to die alone," she said finally. "And because I believe there can be peace even between us." Kyle looked away, uncomfortable. His people, the Rillians, were proud and strong. They believed weakness was death. To be saved by a human was shameful. But Ava did not turn away. She kept watching over him day and night. The bunker was a small place with cold metal walls and flickering lights. Ava set up what supplies she could salvage, trying to make the space feel less like a prison. She brought plants from the bases, small greenhouse, hoping the green leaves would remind Kale of life. Over time, Kale began to recover. His wounds healed, and his strength returned. But the pain inside him, loneliness, betrayal, confusion, was harder to mend. One evening, Ava sat beside him. "Tell me about your home," she said. Kale looked at the small green plant she held. "Rill is a world of mountains and deep forests," he said slowly. "Our people are proud warriors. We fight for honor and survival." "Is it a beautiful place?" Ava asked, smiling. "It was." Kyle's voice grew softer. "Before the war." Ava nodded. She understood loss. Earth had changed too, scarred by battles and destruction. They talked late into the night. Ava told Kyle about Earth's oceans, its blue skies, and the songs humans sang to comfort each other. Kale shared stories of the stars, of ancient battles, and forgotten heroes from his people. Despite their differences, a fragile bridge formed between them. Ava saw a man beneath the armor, a warrior who dreamed of peace. Kale saw a woman who believed in hope, even in a time of war. One morning, Ava awoke to find Kale sitting outside the bunker entrance, looking at the sky. The twin moons of Virex 7 cast pale light over the barren landscape. "You are stronger now," Ava said quietly as she joined him. Kyle nodded. "I do not understand you, human. Why risk your life for me?" Ava hesitated. "Because I see more than an enemy in you. I see someone who deserves to live." Kale looked at her then, really looked. In her eyes he saw kindness, courage, and something unfamiliar. Trust. Their moments together grew longer, filled with quiet conversation and shared silence. Ava found herself caring for Kale, not just as a patient, but as a person. Kale began to feel something he never thought possible, respect and perhaps even friendship, but danger was never far away. Scouts from both sides searched the area for survivors and deserters. Ava moved Kale carefully from place to place, hiding him in old storage rooms beneath floors and behind heavy machinery. One day, a drone passed near the bunker. Ava held her breath as the machine's sensors scanned the ground. Kale's heart pounded in his chest. When the drone moved on, Ava whispered, "We must be more careful." Kyle nodded. "I owe you my life, human. I will protect you too." Their bond deepened in the quiet moments between danger. Ava showed Kale how to use simple human tools, and Kale taught her about Rillian survival skills. They shared stories of their families, their hopes and fears, but the war still loomed. Ava knew that if anyone found out about her secret prisoner, she would be branded a traitor. Kale knew that if the Dominion discovered him alive, they would send assassins to finish the job. One night, Ava lay awake staring at the ceiling. She thought about her brother, lost in the early battles of the war. She thought about Kale, a man abandoned by his own people but still fighting to survive. In that moment, she realized the war was not just about enemies or battles. It was about people like Kale and herself, who wanted something more. The next day, Kale surprised Ava. He had crafted a small Rillian symbol from scraps of metal, a sign of respect and honor. "For you," he said quietly. Ava took the symbol, feeling its weight. It was more than a gift. It was a promise. But they both knew their time was limited. As Ava treated a deep wound on Kale's arm, a distant explosion shook the ground. Scouts were getting closer. "We must prepare," Ava said. Kale stood, stronger now. "Then we fight. Together." Their strange alliance was no longer just survival. It was a choice, to stand against the war and to believe in something new. Under the cold moons of Virex 7, a human medic and an alien commander began to rewrite their fate. But the stars watched silently, and the future was uncertain. Would their forbidden trust survive the coming storm? Or would the war destroy them both? The cold wind of Virex 7 cut through the cracked walls of the abandoned bunker. Outside, the sky was a dark canvas filled with stars, silent witnesses to a war that seemed endless. Inside, Lieutenant Ava Corwin and Commander Kale Rath sat close to a small heater, their breaths visible in the cold air. The danger was real. Scouts from both the Galactic Dominion and the United Earth Forces searched for survivors. Ava knew that if anyone found Kale alive, her secret would be exposed. Worse, Kale could be taken prisoner or killed on the spot, but Ava was determined to protect him. Kale's injuries had healed, but his body was still weak. His eyes, once full of anger and suspicion, now showed something softer, curiosity and, slowly, trust. One evening, Ava sat beside him, cleaning a wound on his arm. Her hands were gentle, careful. Kale flinched at first, unused to kindness from an enemy. "Easy," Ava whispered. "It won't hurt." Kale watched her work, the tension slowly leaving his muscles. He realized that her touch was not just healing his wounds, but also breaking down the walls he had built around himself. "You humans," he said quietly. "You surprise me." Ava smiled. "Not all humans are what you've been told." The nights were long and cold. They shared stories by the light of a small fire. Ava spoke of Earth's oceans, vast and deep, where the water sparkled like stars. Kale told of Rill's mountains, tall and strong, where the wind sang songs of old battles. Their worlds were different, but they found common ground in their stories. One night, as a fierce storm raged outside, Ava and Kale huddled together in the bunker's small shelter. Lightning flashed, illuminating their faces. "Why did you risk everything to save me?" Kyle asked, his voice low. Ava looked at him, her eyes steady. "Because I believe in something better. Because I believe in you." Kale's heart quickened. He had never known such words from a human before. They were dangerous words, words that could cost them both their lives. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the bunker. The walls shook. Ava grabbed Kale's arm. "They've found us." Outside, soldiers from both sides were closing in. Ava knew they had little time. She helped Kale to his feet. "We have to move," she said. Kale nodded, his warrior instincts returning. Together, they ran through dark corridors, dodging falling debris and avoiding patrols. Ava's heart pounded as she led Kale through secret tunnels she had discovered earlier. They reached a narrow exit just as enemy soldiers stormed. Inside, Ava pushed open a heavy metal door and cold night air rushed in. Cale looked up at the stars, breathing deeply. "We are alive," he said simply. But their escape was far from over. The surface of Virex 7 was a harsh and dangerous place. Jagged rocks and deep craters made every step a challenge. Ava guided Cale through the rough terrain, using her knowledge of the moon's landscape to avoid patrols. As they walked, Ava noticed the pain in Cale's eyes. "What troubles you?" she asked gently. Kyle hesitated. "I am a commander. I should be leading my people, not running with a human." Ava smiled softly. "Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to change." Kyle looked at her, the weight of his duties and pride heavy on his shoulders. But in Ava's eyes he saw a future he never thought possible, a future where enemies could become allies. Days passed. Ava and Cale found shelter in an old smuggler's hideout. It was small and dusty, but safe for now. Ava tended to Cale's wounds and helped him regain his strength. One evening, as they sat near a small fire, Cale spoke quietly. "You have changed me, Ava. You have shown me a new way." Ava reached out and took his hand. "And you have shown me courage I never knew I had." Their hands stayed clasped, a silent promise in the cold night. But peace was fragile. A sudden noise shattered the quiet. Outside, a group of soldiers approached the hideout. Ava and Cale prepared to defend themselves. Cale moved quickly, using his combat skills to block the attackers. Ava supported him, using her medical knowledge to treat minor injuries and keep them both fighting. The battle was fierce but brief. The soldiers retreated, but not before warning that more were coming. "We must leave," Ava said urgently. Cale agreed. "Together." As they disappeared into the darkness, Ava and Cale knew their journey was only beginning. The war was still raging and their secret was dangerous, but they had each other, and sometimes that was enough to fight for. The sky over Virex 7 was heavy with dark clouds. The storm had passed, but the air was thick with tension. Ava and Cale had been on the run for days, moving from one hidden place to another. Each step was dangerous, but they refused to give up. Ava's mind raced as she watched the horizon. The Dominion soldiers were relentless. They would not stop until Cale was captured or killed. At the same time, the Earth forces were hunting anyone who helped the enemy. Ava knew that if they were caught, both would face severe punishment. Still, Cale was alive, and that was all that mattered. One evening, as they rested in the ruins of an old outpost, Cale looked at Ava with serious eyes. "I owe you my life, human," he said quietly. "But this war, it is not only about us. It is bigger." Ava nodded. "I know, but we can change things. Together." Cale smiled faintly. "Together." Suddenly a sound broke the silence, the distant hum of engines. Both of them froze. A patrol was coming. "We have to hide," Ava whispered, pulling Cale behind a crumbled wall. The patrol moved slowly, scanning the area with sharp eyes and advanced sensors. Ava's heart pounded in her chest. Cale's hand tightened around hers. When the soldiers passed without noticing them, Ava let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "We are not safe here," she said. "We need to find a place where we can talk to people who want peace." Cale agreed. "There are others like me, Rillian rebels who do not want this endless war. If we can join them, maybe we can end this." Ava's hope grew. Together they planned their next move, but the universe had other plans. The next morning, Earth soldiers found their hiding spot. Ava and Cale were surrounded. "Lieutenant Corwin," the captain said, his voice cold, "you are under arrest for aiding the enemy." Ava's heart sank, but she stood tall. "I saved a life, that is my duty." Cale stepped forward, raising his hands in surrender. "I will come peacefully." The captain's eyes widened. "You? The Dominion commander?" Cale nodded. "I am no longer your enemy. I seek peace." Ava was led away, hands bound, But she glanced back at Kale. Their eyes met, a silent promise to fight no matter what. Days later, Ava faced a military tribunal. She was accused of treason, of helping an enemy to survive. But she stood firm, telling the truth about Kale and their belief in peace. Her words moved some officers. The war had taken too much from everyone, and perhaps it was time to listen. Kale was held in a secure facility, but his reputation was changing. Rumors spread of his refusal to continue the war, of his desire to unite rebels and end the fighting. One day, Ava received a message, a simple note with a symbol she recognized. The Rillian soulstone Kyle had given her before their capture. It was a sign. Kale had escaped, and he was coming for her. Months passed. The war's fury did not ease, but Ava worked with those who hoped for peace. She helped heal wounded soldiers from both sides and spoke of the possibility of a future without endless fighting. Then, on a quiet day at the Peace Hub, a place built where battles had once raged, Ava heard the hum of a shuttle. She turned, heart racing. A Rillian ship was landing. The doors opened. Kale stepped out. Their eyes met again, stronger than before. No words were needed. They were no longer prisoner and medic, commander and enemy. They were survivors. They were hope. Together, under the watchful stars, they faced a new battle, the battle to bring peace. The first light of dawn touched the horizon of Virex 7, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The harsh storms had passed, leaving the air calm and full of promise. For the first time in a long time, hope seemed possible. Ava stood outside the small peace hub watching the sunrise. The building had once been a military base, but now it was a place where soldiers from both sides could meet, talk, and heal. It was a fragile symbol of the new future she and Kyle were trying to build. Behind her, the doors opened quietly. Kyle stepped out, his tall frame silhouetted against the brightening sky. His face was still marked with the scars of war, but his eyes shone with determination. "Ava," he said softly. She turned and smiled. "Kale." They walked side by side toward the gathering crowd of humans and Rillians. Some soldiers watched with suspicion, others with curiosity, but all listened as Kale stepped forward to speak. "I was once a commander of war," Kale said, his voice strong and clear. "I fought for my people, for honor, for survival. But I learned that survival is not enough. We must live with each other, not just beside each other." Ava stood beside him, proud and hopeful. "We are not enemies," she added. "We are neighbors, friends, maybe even something more." Whispers spread through the crowd. Many were surprised. Some were afraid. But others nodded, seeing the truth in their words. The peace talks were difficult. Old wounds and memories ran deep. But Ava and Kale worked tirelessly, sharing stories, healing injuries, and building trust. They showed that even the greatest enemies could find common ground. Days turned into weeks. The war machines quieted. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Families reunited. Slowly, the galaxy began to breathe again. One evening, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Ava and Kale stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. The stars sparkled above, brighter than ever. Kale took Ava's hand. "You saved my life once," he said. "Now, you have saved my soul." Ava smiled. "And you have given me hope." They looked out over the peaceful land, knowing the road ahead would still be hard. But together, they could face whatever came. The war was not forgotten, but it was no longer the story of their lives. Now, they would write a new story. A story of courage, trust, and love. Under the watchful stars of Virex 7, a human medic and an alien commander found not just survival but a new dawn, and with it, the promise of peace.